Movie Time is produced by John DeSando. Listen to full shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
I'm Hope Madden.
This is It's Movie Time, and it's time for a new Neil Jordan movie.
Wow, it's been a while.
Oh, it's called Greta. Now, Hope, set it up and tell me if this thing is a thriller, a horror film, or what is it?
I would go with a thriller, although it definitely, I think, bends toward horror in the third act for sure.
Right.
It's about kind of a lonesome Midwestern girl who is in New York, but she's lost her mother and feels a little untethered, and she finds a handbag on the subway and is kind enough to return it, and then develops a fondness for the lonesome older woman who is also alone in the city, who the handbag belongs to. And that turns out to be a bad decision.
Isn't that a neat premise?
I liked it.
I liked the handbag. It's just, Chloe Grace Moretz plays the young woman.
Mm-hmm.
At times I'm not certain she's great for the role, but she's a terrific actress.
She is, yeah, she's good.
And Isabelle Huppert
Is, yeah.
She's
amazing.
For her 10th movie in the last year.
Yeah, she is a stunning presence on screen. I mean, it's funny. Part of the problem with this film is that she's a very small and fragile human being, and the whole time you're like, knock her down. You can just knock her down. But at the other, she's such a fascinating presence on screen when she's, she becomes the stalker. She becomes Frances is the young girl's character's name. She becomes her stalker, and she'll stand outside this sort of upscale restaurant where Frances works, immovable, just not moving, just standing there staring hour upon hour, and it's so interesting what a really frightening presence this tiny woman can be. And then by the third act, she's a bit unhinged, right? I mean, she's almost like Nicolas Cage, just dancing around in her pantyhose, and it's a great performance.
You're reminding me about that shot where you go from inside the cafe and then you see her standing on the other side of the street, and you're reminding me how beautifully that kind of encapsulates our fear that there is some danger we can't do anything about.
That's true.
Police can't do anything about her.
Right.
She's got a right to stand there. I mean, it's just one of those frustrating things. And I'm not surprised because Neil Jordan directed my favorite film of the 90s, which is The Crying Game. Yeah. And that's surely a thriller.
Yes. Oh, definitely. The Crying Game. He's done some horror films. One of his first films in the Company of Men was a werewolf movie. And then his most recent, it's actually several years now, his most recent big screen project was called Byzantium, which was a vampire movie.
Okay.
Much better than his other vampire movie, Interview with a Vampire, which was abysmal. But one of the things I like about that particular scene where she's standing outside, it's very Neil Jordan in the colors and the darkness and the sort of the rain and the way kind of the street lights and the neon of New York kind of bounce off of her and this silhouette that she makes. I mean, there are certain scenes in this movie that are really brilliantly framed and orchestrated.
Yes, I agree. Otherwise, the tropes are abundant.
Yes, right? They are. And in fact, at a certain point, the movie just becomes silly. Just silly.
Our audience at the preview was laughing. At times, I began to wonder, did Neil Jordan really expect this? Because
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Now,
I don't think so.
Here's what I wonder. Is this a spoof for Jordan?
I don't think it is. I think it's just a mishandled film.
Okay.
Because I don't think it was supposed to be funny. Although there are parts of this film where it feels like whole reels were chunked out and some private detective TV show that has nothing to do with this plot was like spliced in, because all of a sudden there's Stephen Ray dubbed. He was dubbed. Why would they? He was. That wasn't him. That wasn't him trying to have an American accent. That was just not Stephen Ray.
He was in Crying Game.
He was. He's in almost all of Neil Jordan's films. And I just thought, what is happening? And why are they hiring a private detective when she has a police record? And why are you saying, who is she? Because you know who she... I don't understand. Call the police. Just call the police. You know where she is. It's, oh my God. It just derails so profoundly.
And the thing is, first of all, Ray is doomed.
Yes.
That detective. Yep. He's so shabby.
And they don't even introduce him until the third act. You're like, yeah, this guy, he's not long for this world.
And then, if people want to know what I mean by tropes, one of the things anyone who's been to one horror film knows: do not go into that basement.
That's right. That's right. Because if you've ever been to a horror film, somebody somewhere shouts it, "Don't go in that basement."
no, don't do that.
And that is why, at that point, everybody starts laughing. Everybody in our screening laughed because you're trying to escape. Nobody escapes out of the basement.
And I think the first time when the audience really chuckled was in the finger episode.
Yes.
And that's where I thought tonally he kind of went wrong.
It is. I mean, I think that because her character, Isabelle Huppert's character, by that point in the film, right, she's already sort of, the jig is up, and so she's just being her own nutty self. She's clearly a crackpot by that point. And it does. The tone of the film really takes a pretty hard left turn by that point. It's like there's dismembered fingers and there's laughter, and you're just like, it's but that's the thing, right? When he switches from thriller to horror film,
right,
he just loses his footing.
Yes, thank you. Yes, that's right. And I think that third act, which actually wakes up the audience.
It does.
Because it's been kind of, repetition and ambling and questions about about Frankie's sanity. What's she doing anywhere near this lady?
That's the other thing, though, is that there's a pretty effective scene where Frankie is home and she's receiving photos of her roommate, and she realizes that this woman is just following her roommate, and her roommate doesn't know. And there's a lot of tension about it, and it's got there are so many horror films and thrillers about stalkers, but it's an effective scene, but the whole time you're thinking to yourself, she's unarmed and very, very small. Like, it's so hard once you're past the notion of polite etiquette. Like, here's this crazy lady and what am I going to do about it? Once you actually get to the point where she's dangerous, she's not dangerous, John.
No.
You just knock her under a cab and you're fine.
But Hope, she's so resilient.
She is resilient. She really is.
She gets up.
She really is.
But that's typical of a bad horror
exactly.
film.
Inexplicably, she's...
So you almost sit there and say, no, that person's not dead.
No.
We know that.
Right.
You can expect.
That's right.
So I'm thinking I enjoyed it, but I was disappointed in it. Would that be fair?
Well, I was baffled. I was baffled by it. I just kept driving. I'm like going, that was the weirdest movie. It was, and I was so amazed by the leaps of logic by the third act. Just these gaps in just logic by the third act. I thought, I can't say that I didn't hate it. It wasn't like, a chore to get through, but it was by no means a good movie.
Well, then, one of the reasons you're here, not only because I just love having you as a co-host, but also you do know something about thriller horror films.
I do.
What grade would you award? This is called Greta.
It is called Greta. I'm going to give it a D.
Oh, God. And I'm going to award it a C.
Okay.
And I don't know. I think we have to look other places, maybe at congressional testimonies to get more horror.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's horror aplenty over there.
Good.